Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba, back once again to progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Back with another video, but before we get started, you know you got to pay the cost to be the boss. What do I mean by that? I know there's a lot of people watching the videos, ghost watching, but you're going to pay the cost. You know, we got to pay the bills. Make sure you hit that subscribe and like button. Make sure you hit that notification bell before we get started. So we're back with another video where we are once again invoking the wisdom of the late great Fannie Lou Hamer, who taught us to never forget where you come from and always praise the bridges that carried us over. We always want to make sure we're honoring the moral responsibility to remember. And in doing so, we're going to honor the first Pan-African Conference that led to subsequent Pan-African Congresses. So for those of you who do not know, 122 years ago, July 23rd through July 25th was the first Pan-African Conference. It was organized by the late, great Trinidadian barrister Henry Slyvester Williams. If you don't know about Henry Slyvester Williams, he was the individual who coined the term Pan-Africanism, along with Queen Mother, our sister Kinloch from South Africa. They created the African Association, oftentimes known as the Pan-African Association, and they organized this Pan-African Conference to address issues that the African world was facing. So we know that we have always, in the proto-Pan-Africanist era, had issues in which Black people were fighting back against racialized injustice, anti-Blackness, right? So we could talk about the Maroons, right? Going all the way back to the 15th century in Brazil, in Central America, and even Florida. We could talk about Paul Kufi, the first African American to repatriate to the continent. We could talk about one Martin Delaney, so on and so forth. So we know that we've always had individuals who were looking to strike a blow against, of course, the insidious effects of anti-Blackness here in the Western world and throughout the globe. However, we're talking about an organized approach, a Pan-Africanist approach, a unified approach to addressing the vicissitudes of African life in the 18th, 19th, and of course 20th centuries. And that took place during the first ever Pan-African Conference that was, of course, organized by one Henry Slyvester Williams. He is responsible, of course, for coining the term Pan-Africanism, the idea, the movement that is, of course, today Pan-Africanism. And as always, I do know as a fellow Pan-Africanist that there are a number of issues that one could take umbrage with when it comes to Pan-Africanism. I even argue as a Pan-Africanist that Pan-Africanism is an ideology that has promised so much but delivered very little. In fact, I've always mentioned that my master's thesis entitled, Is Pan-Africanism Dead? The Efficacy of Garveyism in the Age of Globalism sought to interrogate that very question. Is Pan-Africanism dead? I'll argue no, it's on life support, but one of the reasons why is that historically, Pan-Africanism promised very much, delivered very little. We've seen a litany of Pan-African activists and politicians go by the wayside or be incarcerated for long periods of time. One of Malcolm X, we could think Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba. We could think one Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison. Then, of course, we could look at the flagship Pan-African organization, the African Union, which is seen by many to be a toothless bulldog, right? And we know that at the African Union, which was formerly the Organization of African Unity, was the brainchild, of course, of Kwame Nkrumah, because he was an acolyte and a student of the teachings of the late, great Marcus Messiah Garvey. When we mention in Garvey, we're going to make sure we do a video on the creation of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the African Communities League, which was created, of course, on the 1st of August, 1914. So if you all are interested in learning a bit about Marcus Garvey Universal Negro Improvement Association, then we're going to make sure that we have that for you. But with that being said, back to the first ever Pan-African Conference that took place in London, England, at Westminster Town Hall. It was attended by 37 delegates and numerous other individuals. Some of the notable names were John Alcindor, W.E.B. DuBois, and of course, one of the co-organizers of the event, who really doesn't get the praise that she deserves. And I'm going to make sure I do a video on her. We're talking about one Anna Julia Cooper, who of course was the preeminent Pan-African female voice of her day. And for many of you who are unaware, Wake Forest University, which of course is an elite private institution in North Carolina, actually has an Institute for Social Justice named after her. I believe it's the Anna Julia Cooper Institute for Social Justice at Wake Forest University. And of course, if you have not read her seminal text, A Voice from the South, that really takes a look at intersectionality during the 19th century in terms of looking at Black life in an intersectional way that Black lives were being marginalized and oppressed in the 19th and early 20th century. Make sure you check that out. But back to the Pan-African Conference, we want to make sure we honor Henry Slyvester Williams. One of the things that did come out of the Pan-African Conference was the creation of the annual Pan-African Congresses, right? And so we know Paris had a Pan-African Congress in 1919. I believe New York City had one in 1927, London in 23. Then, of course, in Manchester, England, 1945 is when they really came together and said, you know what, we're going to have to destroy colonialism, even if we have to destroy ourselves in the process. That was really when we saw this huge push and impetus for the anti-colonial and, of course, independence movements on the African continent throughout the African world. We're talking about the Caribbean as well, which coincided with, of course, the civil rights movement here in America, and of course the Black Power movement as well. In 1974, they had the Pan-African Conference in, of course, Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and then the last Pan-African Conference took place in 1994 in Kampala, Uganda. And so I just wanted to make sure that we took some time to honor that. We always talk about honoring the moral responsibility to remember. And many people may be unaware of the fact that the first Pan-African Conference led to the subsequent Pan-African Congresses that was actually led by one W.E.B. DuBois all the way up until his death at the right before the March on Washington in 1963. And so, of course, W.E.B. Du Bois was being mentored by Henry Slyvester Williams, who, of course, as I stated previously, was the individual who coined the term Pan-Africanism. So I just want to make sure I got on, mention that, and of course, I will be remiss that my duty by today didn't state that I would like to see what you all would think. So please leave a comments below about what are your thoughts about not only Henry Slyvester Williams, but of course the first Pan-African Conference and the subsequent Pan-African Congresses that came as a result. Would love to hear what you think. Until next time, you all know what to do. Peace. Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you for supporting the channel. And remember, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on Black. Peace.